Okay, so this is a video in SPSS on how to make scatter plots. I'm looking at the data on cheese. I don't remember what all of this exactly is. I'm not really a cheese expert, but I know this output metric is taste, something to do with what cheese tastes like. Acetic acid is some type of acid, as is hydrogen sulfate, I believe H2S is, and lactic acid. I suppose I should investigate these a little bit. All right. So I don't like working with data that I don't understand a word of. So this is a paper on cheese. It's just what I found on the internet. The flavor of cheddar cheese. And I just want to briefly sort of understand a little bit about what we're looking at. So I'm sort of going to read this quickly and see if I can find anything interesting. Cheese making, okay. So cheeses and then acids. Okay, so acids during the manufacturing of cheese, starter bacteria ferment lactose to lactic acid. So the metric that we're looking at is the lactic acid. That's in our data. And so the flavor of cheese, I believe, is impacted by the levels of lactic acid, and I'm assuming acetic acid is somewhat a similar thing. Volatile flavor compounds originate from degradation of the major milk constituents, lactose, citrate, milk proteins, etc. So we're looking at various data on what I believe is levels of different acids and then an output on cheese in terms of a taste variable. I don't want to get too into this, but I don't want to just look at the data and have no idea what it actually is. So I believe that's what these metrics are, and taste is kind of an output kind of like thing. Anyways, so let's look at some scatter plots of this. The cases are just I believe this is different cheese samples would be my guess. And then this is like the acetic acid, and I don't know what the H2S is. I think it's sulfuric acid and lactic acid. So these are three like cheese chemical things, and then this is the output taste. So I would assume that in most cases we want to use taste as a Y variable, and we want to use these as X variables, but I think it's kind of arbitrary and exploratory what we're doing. Anyways, what I want to do is a scatter plot, and I want to do a basic scatter plot. Now, there's two ways to do that in SPSS. They left legacy dialogues. That basically, legacy means the old versions of things, because this was probably a better method of making graphs than the new method. So this is kind of like your classic hit the buttons and graph thing. So there is, of course, a scatter plot one down here, and I'm going to pull that up, and let's just do a simple scatter. Let's not get too fancy, and let's go define, and let's do taste by, let's do it by acetic, because that's the first level, and then, you know, you're not, this isn't a presentation, so you don't have to worry about fancifying your you know, your labels and stuff. Just get the scatter plot to look at, because that's our purpose here. And so here I have a nice scatter plot of taste versus the acetic acid levels. And it appears from the picture here that in the low levels of acetic acid, I would think it would be like too acidic, and there probably weren't any samples that low. And the taste metric, whatever, seems to go up generally as the acid levels go up, but I think this is like pH or something. I don't know. But anyways, whatever. As the acetic measure increases, the taste seems to increase as well. There do seem to be a lot of sort of exceptions to this down here. But at least, you know, with the scatter plot, we have a picture of what's going on with the data. There's clearly a pattern. It would be a better pattern if the sort of lower cloud weren't here, and if it were just like all kind of an elliptical cloud. But at least there clearly is some sort of relation between the taste and the acidic. Okay. Similarly, I could go and look at the other variables. Let's do a different. That's how to do the most simple scatter plot. The other way to do it is this business of the chart builder, which I find a little bit baffling. So they sort of rebuilt. How to do graphs in SPSS and did this kind of like chart wizard thing. And so when you first pull this up, it's not going to look like mine because mine has stuff in it because I was playing with this. And what you have to do is you have to go down here to this gallery first. So this gallery is like a selector in terms of like what kind of graphs you can do. And it's kind of cool, but you have to like know how to use it because otherwise it's kind of like annoying. Um, so you have to go to the scatter and dot plot section, which is here. And then you have to pull the plot you want onto this little boardy thing. And then it gives you like a template to work with in terms of your X and Y axes. And then you have to drag your variables from here onto here. It's actually quite easy to use if you know how to use it, but it's sort of like baffling to figure out. You have to look up how to use it and find the right source. And so when I do that and hit go, I get coincidentally the same exact scatter plot, except in this case it says simple scatter. I don't know. This doesn't do any good for me, but it's the same plot. So there's two ways to do the same exact plot, and you get the same pattern of taste versus acetic. Okay. Acidic or acetic or whatever the heck it is. I used to study chemistry a long time ago. I think it's acetic acid. It's a byproduct of fermentation. I mean, you know, the way that people used to preserve food is they didn't have refrigerators, so they would ferment cheese and, you know, all kinds of fun stuff like that. I grew cabbage this summer and I tried making sauerkraut. It didn't work. It was lousy. I threw it away. Anyways, so that's the two ways of making a basic scatter plot. You can go through the legacy dialogues and do a scatter plot, and you can go through the chart builder. But the thing that I find really fun, and I like these are like fun plots, is to do. Remember, in this data we have four scale variables, so we're kind of interested in the relation between, you know, this to this, this to this, this to this, you know, this to the and so, you know, there's four different variables and you want to pair them all 2 by 2. So you want to actually do a bigger scatter plot that looks at all the variables in 2 by 2 pairs. This works. This is almost the perfect number of variables, like 4 or 5 variables. If you start getting like 6 or 8 variables, this plot will get too busy and then you're kind of like, oh. But anyways, you can do this kind of grand scatter plot thing, which is really cool. It's like a panel plot. So I'm going to go under graphs. I'm going to go under, it doesn't actually matter. You can do it under legacy or you can do it under this chart builder wizard thing. So I'm going to use this thing again. I'm going to pull it up. And you would never in a million years find this if somebody didn't tell you it was there. So I'm under scatter dot in the gallery. And it's this thing right here, the scatter plot matrix. Okay. And so I'm going to pull that up on here. And so I have the scatter plot matrix, and then I'm going to pull all of my scale variables onto this. Okay. And I'm going to drop them right here. And this is really cool. Okay. And I'm going to hit go. And so what it's going to give me is this, which is really neat. And this is perfect when you have a multivariate data set and you're doing correlations. This is the first thing that you should always do is look at your data, okay? Because working just with the numbers and doing the correlation plots really isn't all that cool. I mean, the correlation, like, you know, tables, we're going to see this. But you have to actually see and feel the data. And this is, like, you need to do this before you do other things. And admittingly, even a lot of statistics professors are very remiss in do the simple things first. Look at the scatter plot of the data, look at the relation between the variables. So here we have the scatter plots of all 4 variables by each other. And so there's nothing in taste by taste because this is the same variable. There is some redundancy in the fact that acetic taste on the y and acetic on the x is basically the image of acetic on the y and taste on the x. So this one and this one. If you can see clearly, like these are flips of each other. So you really only need to look at this because there's only 6 unique plots, even though there's 12 plots total. So the relation, because we're considering the relation, it doesn't matter. In some cases, it doesn't make any difference which variables are x and y anyways. In this case, I would say that y is generally going to be taste because it's an output. It seems to me like we're looking at taste as a function of the different acid levels. So we would be more interested in looking at these and these, even though they're redundant. So the taste by acetic we've already looked at. That's this one. Then we have the taste by hydrogen sulfuric or H2S, which I believe is sulfuric acid from chemistry. This is actually a nice positive linear pattern here. It's even better than this one. Um, and then the taste by lactic acid, this is also a nice pattern here. Notice though also that you have this case where like the acetic and the sulfuric are also kind of in a pattern, as are the acetic and lactic. So we're going to work with this example a little bit further when we do a little bit of other stuff with this. But for now, this is a really simple thing, just getting some scatter plots. And this is the nice, this matrix plot is better if you're looking at multiple variables and looking for relations. You don't necessarily want to have to do 12 individual plots. So the panel plot with the different plots all together, the matrix plot rather, is this one. Again, you get this under graphs, chart builder, and then you go on here and you go under gallery scatter diagram, and it's this thing here that you probably would never in a million years guess if somebody pointed out to you. And then you play with this and you put your little variables on it. It's really easy once you get the hang of it, but like I said, I mean, nobody's going to figure this out without someone telling them. So that is the first thing you should do when you're working with multiple variables on quantitative scales, to look at relationships